Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, I'm Anna and I'm a little bit spooky, and today we're going to talk all about full coverage foundation, how to get a flawless base without it looking heavy, cakey, flat, matte, and just like too much, like a mask. We're going to talk about how to make it look seamless, natural, like you just have amazing skin somehow, and it doesn't look like you got a face full of foundation. That's what we're going to do today, and I'm going to share some of my tips and tricks with you of how I like to do that and what enables me to get a little bit more seamlessness with full coverage. And I'm going to recommend a few products and steps and tips and tricks and all the things in this video. So yeah, also let me know your tips and tricks down below for a flawless full coverage base and what you like to do. Drop them in the comments, and yeah, without further ado, let's get into this video. Okay, hello, good morning. Today I want to talk about full coverage, flawless looking base foundation, and how to achieve that without it looking cakey, heavy, flat, matte. We're not talking about like a full matte finish here. We're just talking about full coverage that doesn't look like a mask, and how to make that work. Yeah, how I like to do it anyway for myself. I have a whole video about skin prep that is exactly what I would do for full coverage makeup, but we'll breeze through a little bit of that right now. By the way, I have thrown on my brows and just a quick eye look just to get that out of the way. But yeah, I like to make sure the skin is prepped really well before doing especially like full coverage. And if you're using products with matte finishes, you really want to make sure the skin's prepped well. Depending on your skin type is what you would use. I personally have kind of combo, leaning a little bit oily skin, so I like to tailor everything towards that depending on the day. Some days the skin might feel a little bit drier. You gotta tweak things day of. The skin, it has been exfoliated, it's smooth, it's ready to go. So next thing I would do is a serum. Usually I like a good hyaluronic acid type serum, like something like the Dr. Barbara Sturm super anti-aging serum. Any hyaluronic acid serum will do. You don't have to buy that one. Something, like the Green Magic from Herbivore is fantastic if you are a little bit on the drier side and or have trouble with redness or irritation, like your skin might be a little bit flared up or something, a little irritated. Something like this is very soothing. It has a ton of ceramides in it. Very comforting product. So that would be something I would recommend. Give a ton of recommendations and when I would use them in the skin prep video. But for today, I use the hyaluronic acid serum. I used a vitamin C and then a little bit of eye cream around the eye area to prep it. I used the Pierre Thomas Roth 5-in-1 Ultimate 5 Solution Multitasking Eye Cream. And for my moisturizer today, I'm going to use the Vitamin Rich Face Base from Bobbi Brown because I'm not feeling particularly dry, not feeling super oily. I'm feeling very, very in between and just kind of normal. So this is a really good option because it's a very versatile moisturizer that functions as skin prep, almost a priming step. It's a vitamin infused face base is what it's called. It has some nice ingredients. It is considered an all-in-one primer and moisturizer. So again, this is going to be the best option if you are particularly dry. Something like this is going to be amazing. But I think it can work really well even if you have a bit more of an oilier skin type like myself, and you just adjust the amount you apply. You don't have to apply a ton. So I'm just going to take a little bit here. I just dipped my finger in, and I'm going to go ahead and work this into the cheek area and all over the face and give it a good massage. I'm like really work it in. I do have very reactive skin. When I touch it, it turns bright red. Don't be alarmed. It will go away momentarily. I have that type of skin that you just vaguely touch it, it goes bright red. Okay, but yeah, I like to massage this in, upward motions, not a ton of product because I personally don't need a ton of it, but this is one of those moisturizers that if you do need more moisture, you can apply a little more. But whatever moisturizer you enjoy, go for it. Work a little bit to the forehead here. And what I like about this moisturizer or the Vitamin Face Base in particular, it's one of those products that really soak in doesn't leave a greasiness on the surface of the skin, but it plumps it up and hydrates. And to me, it gives a look of a little bit of a smoother appearance around fine lines, wrinkles, and pores. And yeah, it just makes things look really nice and ready for makeup. It is a little bit unique in that respect. Something very similar is the Forget the Filler from Flawless. And if you feel like you put on too much moisturizer, if your skin's feeling a little too greasy, you can always take a little bit of toilet paper, tissue, whatever, and you can blot away the excess. I would say just give your skin adequate time to absorb the product though. Give it like a 10 minutes or something if you can, if you have time. If you don't have time, it's fine. Don't worry about it. If you have a little bit of extra time, give your skin a few minutes to soak in that product and really do its job. I think that can go a long way, because it may seem like you might apply too much and then you come back 10 minutes later and oh, I'm not as greasy as I thought. But yeah, you can always take a little bit of tissue and blot away excess product. Okay, next I'm going to do a little bit of SPF. Today I'm going to use the Weightless Mineral Sunscreen. This is from First Aid Beauty. We're going to pop some of this on. If it's a special occasion, evening event, something like that, if there's going to be flash photography, it won't hurt to skip the SPF for just a special occasion. But for day-to-day, SPF all the way. The only time I recommend not fooling with the SPF is for like flash photography, special occasion type of event. And I mean once in a blue moon kind of occasion. Or I like this particular SPF for a very perfected makeup day because it also offers kind of some priming benefits of its own. It does kind of smooth the skin out. It's a mineral SPF too, so no irritation, and it has kind of a tan color to it, so it doesn't give a white cast, and it's very, very thin. But this is one you want to give a couple of minutes to really soak into the skin and kind of dry down. It benefits from that. But it's a very primer-like texture, very serum-like. Really unique as far as a mineral sunscreen goes. And of course, if you're going in with the SPF, ears, chest, neck, whatever, exposed, definitely put the SPF on. SPF is a very important product, I think, and sometimes when we're doing glam or like a full coverage thing, it might get forgotten because you're thinking more about perfected base and not so much about the skin prep. But the key to everything for a good complexion is the skin prep and skincare. Once you get that skincare on point, everything else is going to come together. I would almost say spending more time on your skincare would be more beneficial. I'm going to let that settle into the skin for a moment and we'll be right back. At this point, I would say go make you a cup of coffee. Do something like that. Then come back and do the rest. And then that gives adequate time for all the skincare to soak in. All right. Now, next step would be something like a priming step. Would be like maybe you want to do some pore filling, smoothing priming. I hear you. I do too. And especially if you're more oily, you may need something that's kind of a mattifying primer. So like a good mattifying primer that I enjoy is the All Nighter Face Base from Urban Decay. Now, I'm not too concerned about things being matte. Even though I do lean a little bit more oily, I like a more skin-like appearance to the skin. So this is a good option though if you really need some longevity from your makeup. This is just a sample size, but it's the All Nighter from Urban Decay. My favorite primer currently is the e.l.f. Liquid Poreless Putty Primer. I think this one's really nice. So much better than the ones in the little jars. I love this one. I think it's lightweight. It is effective. I think it helps with makeup longevity, makes things look smooth and nice, and just creates a really good canvas to work off of. So I'm just going to take a little bit of that and go into the areas where I have the most pore issues, like right in here. You don't have to put this all over the face. You can also combine primers and layer up primers, which is what we're going to do today. So I'm going to start with my pore filling one right here in the center of the face and my chin. Anywhere that I want a little bit more smooth, velvety look to it. And I like that this one isn't super duper flat matte either. Now, inherently, a lot of full coverage foundations tend to have more of a matte finish to them, or a matte satin finish, soft matte, skin-like, that kind of thing, in combination with a glowy base, like a little bit glow on the outer primer of the face, they can look really pretty without looking flat matte. Now, I personally, again, I like more what I would call like a creamy look to the skin. So I kind of like a little bit of both. I like more that satin look. I don't want to look super powdered matte. I can just kind of make sure it's pressed in. And what's going to help with that creamy effect is going in with something with a little bit more glow to it. Something like the Flawless filter from Charlotte Tilbury, the e.l.f. Halo Glow liquid filter. Maybelline has one in the age rewind range. That's not really my favorite, but it's alright. These two are my favorites. Lumi Glotion is a good option. Something like Flawless filter I think is really kind of the perfect thing. Also, Say has a nice like glowy skin prep item, like that's meant to be like a primer. This almost functions more like skincare. It has a ton of skincare within it, so if you're dry, this is going to be a wonderful product for you. That is the Say Gel something or other. I can't think of the name. I'll put it on the screen. Even if your skin is dry, oily, whatever, the skin prep and what you put underneath is going to make a difference. And you'll be able to make these products work for you, no matter kind of the finish of the foundation. All right, so what I'm going to do next is take a little bit of Charlotte Tilbury Flawless filter. And I'm going to keep that to the perimeter of the face and the high points, like right here. I like to put a little bit there, just on the tops of the cheeks, a little bit right here, tip of the nose. I kind of almost like a little C shape right there, because I think it looks really pretty when light hits right there. Do a little bit at the top of the forehead. I think can look really pretty. You can, you know, of course, adjust the amount of this you apply to your tastes. You don't have to go ham with it and put it all over the face. And then I would take a nice buffing foundation brush, and this will be the same brush I use for my foundation. This one in particular is the e.l.f. buffing foundation. I think e.l.f. makes really good complexion brushes. Any sort of foundation brush that you like though. But if you're wanting full coverage, I recommend brush over sponge. A sponge is gonna thin out the product. It's nice to keep a sponge handy though, to help kind of press product in and remove excess product if you put on too much. They can work in tandem. And I'm not talking about like this would be an everyday skin foundation look. This is more, you know, something geared towards the special occasion that you'll take that little extra time and use the multiple tools. And you can pare this down, this routine, and do it very quickly for day to day. If you're someone who just needs the full coverage for day to day, sometimes you just do. I have had some skin issues in my day. I've had eczema, dermatitis, hormonal issues where my face was just bright red. I've been through it. I know what it's like to want full coverage on the daily basis. Now, also, what's nice about Flawless filter and the e.l.f. Halo filter is that they have a touch of coverage within them, so you're already starting to build a little coverage from there. And you see how you have this nice glow right out here, but this area is smooth and has kind of a velvety feel to it from the e.l.f. primer on top of it. And another nice thing about this is that it's not greasy, the Flawless filter. It dries down and it's not going to leave a greasy residue. And I think it in particular is very flattering on more mature skin or textured skin. There's something very graceful about this product, and it can look beautiful over top of foundation as well. If you're wanting a little highlight and you might have a little extra fine line, wrinkle stuff going on, texture that you don't want to exacerbate with like a powder highlight, because sometimes they can. This actually can function beautifully because it has a softness to it and a very much a filtered effect. As you can kind of see already, like, it definitely does something. There is magic in this. And the e.l.f. one comes very, very close. I do believe Catrice has one that is a little less glowy. That's a nice option as well. Pretty much every brand has a version of the Flawless filter at this point. But I think e.l.f. is probably the nicest one out of any of them that I've tried. But yeah, I'm just going to stamp that into the skin. And now everything has had a good chance to kind of soak in. I don't feel greasy or anything like that. Skin just feels nice and hydrated, plump, ready to go. Foundation. I have a few suggestions for foundation, or recommendations rather, of some full coverage, buildable, kind of adjustable foundations that I enjoy for myself. Yeah, these are just ones that I think are solid options and really good for getting full coverage from them, but some of them can be sheared out to get a lighter coverage. It just depends on your application. I had a chunk of glitter on my, get off my face, glitter. Just depends on your application method, your preferences, whatever. But these are what I consider kind of versatile foundations that definitely can go full coverage if you need them to, or they are full coverage foundations that you can shear out. That's one thing I do enjoy about products that are medium to full, is that you can shear them and get light coverage from them. You don't have to do them as full coverage products. Urban Decay Face Bond, this is one of those incredibly adjustable. You can get whatever coverage level you want from this one. This is a super versatile product. I have a full review wear test linked here. Long wear, self-setting. You actually don't even have to powder it. Really good one if you are oily or on the oilier side of things. Combo, this is the one. If you do have dry patches or whatever, just exfoliate. Definitely exfoliate beforehand and make sure your skin's properly moisturized, and the skin prep, and this will work for you. Good skin prep is really where the key, because it will make foundations that you don't think work for you. It just comes down to needing to address issues beyond the makeup. Okay, another one, Smashbox Always On Skin Balancing Foundation with hyaluronic acid and adaptogens. This one is also a very, very versatile, cool product. You can shear it out if you want to, build it up. And this one has a technology within to adjust to your skin type. So this will work for all skin types. It has the hyaluronic acid in there for the areas of the face that need moisture. It has the adaptogens, which will kind of help and control oil in areas that get oily. Like this is the dream one for the combo skin. Like you got dry areas, you got oily areas. This is the one that's gonna kind of balance it all out and make them work together. And it has a really beautiful skin-like soft satin finish. Next is the Makeup Revolution IRL Filter Foundation, long wear foundation. This is called a breathable soft matte, and I agree, it's a soft matte with a little bit of a skin-like look to it. It's not super flat matte by any means. Great wear time, great level of coverage that is very adjustable and buildable again. But yeah, this claims to have 16-hour wear. It does wear really well, and this is great. It is oil-free. It is really good for oilier skin types, but I think even if your skin's a little bit on the drier side, you can make this one work again with proper skin prep. This will be fine. And it comes in a really nice Luxe glass bottle. I think it's a beautiful option and very, very good product. And yeah, it's a nice, very nice foundation and affordable. Another one that's gonna be a little bit limiting in shade range, but is such a beautiful, absolutely stunning foundation, is the Physicians Formula Butter Believe It Foundation and Concealer in One for all skin types. Now, I do agree this is great for all skin types, especially if you're on the drier side. This one will be great because it doesn't feel matte and chalky or anything like that. It has a little bit of moisturization in it. It gives a true satin finish to the skin. The coverage level is so buildable on this one. It does have the coconut fragrance, so there's that working against it also. This one has some caveats, but the finish of it is so beautiful. And even the shade I have is not perfect for me. This is the lightest shade, I believe. Yeah, this is the shade Fair, and it has a bit of a green undertone to it, an olive undertone rather. And if you're fair olive, this is phenomenal, which is not a undertone that I think is catered to enough, is the fair olive. A lot of times the warm foundations tend to lean yellow, which isn't always the case. Some people have more of that olive undertone, but they're also fair. And this is like the dead-on perfect color for olive skin tones. But anyway, I can make it work on me and it looks fine. It just kind of will match, because it will match towards my neck and chest area, which is more neutral, a little less red as my face. My face is very cool tone red. It's a little bit deeper than the rest of my body just from the redness of it. I have a red face, but my neck and chest tend to be pretty neutral, much lighter. So as long as it matches down here, I'm fine with it. It doesn't have to match my face. if anything, I'd rather it match down here, which you should. So yeah, something like this I think is really good though if you are a little bit more leaning dry, and if you can find a shade in this one to match you and don't mind a coconutty scent, which I hate the coconut smell. But the finish on this is so absolutely flawless and beautiful. Like, talk about look like you face-tuned your face. It is gorgeous. I really want to use this one today, but because I find this one to be a little bit of a limiting factor for a lot of people with the shade range and there being so many caveats with it, we're not going to use this one today. I'm actually going to use the most accessible option, I think, which would be the IRL Filter Longwear Foundation, because it's affordable, has a decent shade range, and a little bit definitely more accessible than a couple of the higher end options and the Physicians Formula. I don't know what it is about Physicians Formula. I always get tongue twisted saying their name, but they are awful with their shade ranges. They really are just terrible at catering to multiple skin tones. I mean, I'd say that even as a fair person, I struggle with them. They can't nail it. They have weird shades and very limiting shades. It's just, they're very odd with that. Anyway, Makeup Revolution, I think, is a wonderful brand from the drugstore. I used to not be a big fan of them because they were just kind of that dupe brand, but I think now they've really kind of came into their own and are putting out product that's not just dupes. It's actual good product that just stands on its own. So I've definitely gained a little bit of respect for them, and especially their complexion products. I think a lot of their foundations and concealers and stuff perform exactly like high end. They're very, very good formulations. So we're going to use this one today, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to give it a shake. Even if a foundation says you don't have to shake it, I always give it a little shake because they can separate, especially if they've been sitting in a drawer for a minute. Particularly like this Butter Believe It one, she will separate because it does have like some, I think like what, Manoi oil, or it does have some kind of butters in it, oils. So you really want to give her a shake before you apply it. We're going with this one. I'm in the shade F2, which is a pretty decent match for me. Matches my neck very well. Another point before we move on here. When matching your foundation to yourself, go with your chest and neck, kind of this in-between zone here. Find something that can blend your jawline to your neck. Something that can work. This is like my favorite place to swatch. Like if it can blend right in here, it's a good match, kind of match the chest area. That's what I look for. I don't go for what matches my face, because if it matches my face, it's gonna be a little bit deeper than what goes on my body, and it's gonna look like a mask. And if your foundation isn't a perfect match, because it's very rare to get that dead on perfect match. It just is, especially in full coverage. When you're building up, the shade match matters more, because you get a little grace when you're using a lighter coverage product, but when it comes to full coverage, you really need it to match well and look seamless. Definitely make sure you blend down the neck into the chest. If your match is a little off, I would recommend just doing that anyway. A little bit on the ears if your ears are going to be exposed, just to make sure everything looks seamless. Let's pop a little bit of this on. So I'm just going to take 2 squirts out. I don't apply an absolute ton. That's another key, is very light layers, even with the full coverage products, because them being full coverage inherently means you don't need as much, or you shouldn't, ideally. And I like to work in very thin layers and build. Slowly, cautiously, light hand. I can't emphasize a light hand enough, and just feather-like strokes. Don't go in buffing hard or anything like that. It's just gonna make a mess. You want to just kind of do a soft pouncing motion and little swipies to blend the product out, and then kind of tap, tap, tap. You can do the same with the Beauty Blender a little bit. Make sure everything is flowing together. This video is going to be a long-winded, I guess. Where I like to start on myself, because my jawline does have a bit of redness, and to me is going to be the most obvious part of difference to my neck. I start there with my foundation, just so I can make sure everything is flowing together. I think that started as a bit of a habit when I had some hormonal issues, and before, like, my jawline was very, very red, and now it's kind of evened out some, but it's still just inherently a little more red. So I like to start here, and you can see how this is blending down into my neck pretty seamlessly. It's a little bit lighter, but it's fine. But yeah, I want that to all flow together and be one color when it comes to the foundation. Now we'll go back and add dimension and all that later with bronzer and contour. So I know it's gonna look a little flat right now, but just give it a moment. I'll take a little bit onto the ears, and usually I just start right here, and you see it starts to look like one, and like my face belongs to my neck and chest. Now most people, I've noticed it with the use of SPFs and stuff, the face tends to be lighter than the body because maybe the body has some fake tan on, it gets more sun, whatever, than the face. So this application method still applies. It's just kind of reverse with the color. My face is some reason just darker than my body because my body definitely does not see any sunshine, and I'm too lazy to self tan. Yeah, not using much product at all. I put a couple of pumps in the back of my hand, and what I'm doing is working a little bit into the brush as I go, like this, not picking up a ton. And I'll start with kind of a swiping motion, and then we will just kind of tip tap in. And really making sure that is blending down the neck. But always start with less than what you think you'll need, and then build from there. All right, I'm working my way up here, going towards the center of the face now. Which I usually think this is probably where most people need most coverage, is the center of the face. That tends to be the redness is, and they can kind of diffuse as they go down. Whatever works for you. This is the technique that works best for myself. And just maybe a different take on applying foundation. Whereas I feel like everybody always says start at the center of the face and buff out. Like, that does not work for me. Again, I'm just patting some on and slowly buffing it out. I don't like to come too close under the eyes with the foundation because it will allow for more creasing, because it's just more product built up under there. The least you can get away with under the eyes, especially on more mature under eyes, the better. And just pat a little around the nose. And then just come around the brow gently here and diffuse that into towards my hairline. My forehead really is the part that leaves the least coverage, so I don't have to put a ton up there. Okay, and now we can evaluate how things are looking, where we might need a little more coverage. If you have a blemish or something that you want to pinpoint conceal, go for it. I don't really have anything to pinpoint conceal that I can see today, so we're just not going to worry about that. But I'm going to take just a little bit more of the foundation. I can see like some redness on my chin. I'm just going to take that down a little bit. And right in here. A little bit on the cheek. This is where I tend to get the most redness, is right here as well. That's like the hardest to cover. And we're just gonna diffuse that and do some nice light taps, patting motion to blend it out. You can see everything is starting to look much more even. It's getting there. And just want to make sure we're blending into the neck. And what you do is you can take your beauty blender. This one's actually dry, and I'm just going to tap over. This kind of presses the product in, and also will remove any excess product. It's just a nice kind of finishing touch, and I'm barely tapping, just gently pouncing around. And it just kind of makes sure everything is meshing into the skin. And you see the pore area is looking pretty smooth. We're looking a little matte, but it's more of a creamy matte. It's not flat. It is definitely a soft matte. We have that little bit of glow peeping through ever so slightly from the flawless filter that gives it that more skin-like effect. And I still have that much left in my hand of foundation. So we did probably use maybe a pump. All this is, you know, pretty subjective. It's going to be up to you and what works for you, though, in the end of the day. I just like to present kind of options of what I like to do, and maybe just something you could give it to try out for yourself and see if it works. Nothing I ever say is definitive. Now, you would think the next step would be concealer, but nope. We're actually doing more of a sandwich version of underpainting, where I've done the foundation, but now I'm gonna kind of underpaint with my blush and bronzer. Any sculpting. Because we use the full coverage foundation, if we underpainted completely and did all of this, the bronzer, sculpting, blush, anything like that underneath the foundation, it would just cover it up because it's full coverage. So what I like to do is do the foundation, then go ahead and do my cream contour, cream bronze, cream blush at this point. So what we're going to use today, just for the sake of simplicity, because this is my kind of all-in-one type of contour bronze product. This is the Patrick Ta Cream Contour Powder Bronze Duo, and she's statuesque. And what I'm going to do is take the cream bronzer now, or cream contour in this, and I'm going to take it on an another e.l.f. brush. I think e.l.f. does great complexion brushes. You don't have to break the bank on complexion brushes, okay? I know high-end brushes are a really great luxury and they feel great to have. They'll last you forever, but it's not always in our budget, and they are so expensive. They're so expensive. Look, e.l.f. makes some really good brushes that, yeah, you're probably gonna have to replace it in a year, but it's a whole $8 to $10, opposed to $100 and something sometimes for a good foundation brush, okay? I'm just saying. So I love the e.l.f. buffing foundation brush, the e.l.f. Ultimate Blending Brush, as well as the e.l.f. Dual Complexion Brush. So for the Dual Complexion Brush, I actually like to use it. Sometimes it's for foundation and concealer, but where I really find that it shines is using it for cream contour. So I take the small end, go into my cream, and then I'm going to put this where I want to sculpt where my natural shadows are, which is right here. And I'm just going to pat this on. And again, this is where you want to start to be really gentle, because you don't want to disturb the foundation underneath. And you're just going to pat that where you want your contour to be. And then you're going to take your bigger side and tap in an upward motion to diffuse. That way you don't lose coverage, but you're getting your cream sculpting done. And we do that for the rest of the face, around the jawline, little around the nose, hairline, the huge. I have a full video all about contouring. I will link in the description box, and I'll link it in the cards in the corner here. There's a little eye in the corner you can click, and it will recommend you videos that I put up there that are relevant to this current video. I'll just take a little bit along the jaw here, and this will bring back some of that structure and shape to the face in dimension. And just tap, 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 tap. Be gentle. Light hand. Alright, and of course, if you feel like you apply too much of any of your cream products, you can always take your foundation brush and just pounce over with whatever is left on the brush. And you can soften that out. And keep in mind, we are using very thin layers of everything. And now we'll do a little bit of cream blush. I'm going to use the Patrick Ta also, just because, sake of simplicity, I'm going to use the cream in here. This is the shade, colorway, Do We Know Her? And the cream in here is just a really pretty, vibrant, kind of warm coral. I think it'll be pretty with this. And yeah, we'll take this on a little brush. Go ahead and get some of that on. The reason I'm layering the products like this, doing the creams and then the powders, is going to give longevity. It just, I don't know, somehow looks a little more natural in a way. Like it just does something. And I know it looks weird midway through. You're like, oh, I have made a mistake. No, just trust the process. This is very much a trust the process type of thing. All right, we're going to take a little bit of the cream. Just tap. Apply that where we want our blush. Having the color coming from within and then sandwiching the powders over top somehow just make it look more seamless and in turn a little bit more realistic and skin-like and less like makeup. And now concealer. So some concealer options that I've pulled that I think are great, kind of full coverage perfecting concealers. I have 3 that I want to mention. The Butter Glow one from Physicians Formula. Stunning concealer. Great if you're a little bit more on the dry side. Again, same kind of undertone to the concealer. Really, really beautiful product. It has kind of a bit of a glow to it, but it is so full coverage and so flawless. It's a good one. And the companion concealer to what we're wearing today, the RL Filter Finish Concealer. Again, soft matte finish. Absolutely beautiful. Great, great long wear. Doesn't crease too bad or anything like that. Just a good solid concealer. Both of these, so good if you're looking for more coverage. I mean, of course, the Instant Age one from Maybelline. Really good option. Love it. I'm almost done with my brightener one. I need to get some more of that, but that one's a really good solid concealer as well. I'm going to list some more recommendations down in the description box because there are definitely so many beautiful options for different skin types. So that are more than what I just have on hand right now that I have reviewed and tested in the past. So I'm going to go ahead and like list all those in the description box as well, just to give you some more options because that's what you need. We overwhelmed with more options, right? Anyway, which concealer should we use today? We'll go with the IRL concealer because matchy. I'm going to just put a little bit right here up to the side of the nose. Just there. Can put a little bit right here, anywhere that might get a little red. And I have a lot of redness right here and darkness, and I really like to brighten this portion up, and it also gives the eye a little bit of a lift. So I like to pull a little bit right there. I'm coming all the way up here to meet where I've contoured my nose. Again, not using much product. This is a very thin amount. My doe foot's not overloaded. So I'm not painting on a ton here. I like to put a little bit on the center of the chin to brighten up, kind of bring forward. I'm also using the corresponding shade. No, I'm actually using a lighter shade called C2 from the IRL line. I like to go just a step lighter with my concealer for a brightening effect, and it can help sculpt. So I'm put a little bit right here. Then we come down right here. I have a bit of shadow right there. And just down the nose. Okay. And I have a little bit right here. I tend to get some redness and darkness here, but I'm not getting it in the smile line because that really creases on me if I get the concealer there. So I'm going just below it. And then you can also put a little here if you need to clean up your contour. Just a small amount. Now first I'm going to take the foundation brush to blend out the face, and then we'll get to the under eyes last. So I'm going to start right here, taking that foundation brush and just tapping that out. Again, gentle pats. Not trying to disturb anything. We're just blending out. Alright, and as I get to the under eye, I'm going to go with a more like small eyeshadow type brush that's kind of flat but super fluffy, or just a nice concealer brush to get right up here where I have more control. Especially if I've already done my eyeshadow like today, I don't want to get concealer all up on my lid. I want to keep it very neat right there. And this brush really enables me to do that. yeah, you can just use an eyeshadow brush. It doesn't have to be a concealer brush. Just any sort of brush that you think works good for you. I've been experimenting trying different brush shapes, and something like this has been really nice, which is just a really large eyeshadow lay down brush. But I'm just gently patting that out. And it has been sitting for a second while I was blending everything else, which gives it time to kind of dry down a little bit, and in turn going to give you more coverage. We'll go right here, start to pat all this, gentle, and just let it diffuse over. And taking my time. That's our foundation brush, and just make sure those edges are really nice and diffused in between where we applied our blush and cheek products in the under eye. There's no harshness. Very gently. And we see, is there anywhere else we might want to add some coverage? I usually need a little bit more on the bridge of my nose. I tend to lose coverage there and it gets a bit red. So I'm just going to put a tiny dot. Just a dot right there. And then I'm going to just gently pat that out. Now, if you want to, again, you could take your little beauty sponge and really tap over all of this just to make sure it is kind of pressed in and melted into the skin well. Now we can powder. I'm going to make sure there's no creasing under my eyes first. So I'm really going to make sure those creases are tapped out best I can. You're always going to get some creasing. Don't beat yourself up over it, because eyes have creases. It's just, we're humans. That's the way we look. You're never gonna have perfectly smooth under eyes, okay? There's always gonna be a little bit of creasing. But we do try to minimize that by making sure things are blended out beforehand so we don't lock in the worst of the creases. Now, for powder on the under eyes, I really love the CoverGirl Simply Ageless powder. The e.l.f. Halo Glow Loose Setting Powder for the under eyes. Oh, beautiful. These two, stunning. By Terry Hydra Powder, another gorgeous option. Makeup Revolution IRL Powder Duo, which is a pressed in loose version. Wonderful powder. Wonderful powder. Great longevity. Fit Me from Maybelline, another good option. Today we're going to use a little bit of this on the under eye. This is the Simply Ageless from CoverGirl. I think it looks so beautiful on the under eye, and so smooth and perfecting without being super duper matte. It is a gently mattifying product. It has a little bit of that light reflection in it, very much like the NARS light reflecting powder, which I love. And I use a small fluffy eyeshadow brush for this as well, and just press her right in there. Get it right under there. You gotta make weird faces for this part. Now I have the translucent. This does come in shades, so you don't have to get white. But I find this to be very brightening on me. I'm gonna take a little bit like right in here just to make sure all that is set. And through the brow area. You can use a velour puff as well if you really want to like press the product in like this. That works beautifully for getting a very smooth finish. And but the pressing motion really gives a very poreless look because you're just pushing the product in. But I kind of like to do a little light coat of powder first because sometimes I feel like this can pick up foundation. So you want to kind of dust a little touch on beforehand. So for the rest of the face, I'm going to jump over to the IRL powder just to show you how it performs in conjunction with the IRL products because it's so good. Okay, so on top you have a pressed powder, very similar to this. It just is a little more mattifying. And then on the underside you have your loose powder. So I'm just going to tap out a little bit of the loose powder. And this is translucent. I think there is shades of this as well. Taking a little bit onto my sponge, pressing it in, kind of working it onto my hand a little bit first, and then press that right in to the T-zone and really set that all down. I like to mostly focus the pressing heading into the T-zone area, anywhere that's has the most pores that I want to look smooth. This is a great trick for that. So just creating that very flawless, smooth, porcelain-like ceramic skin finish, porcelain skin finish. When I say porcelain skin, I mean like texture-wise, not color. And this little puff is from Sonia Kashuk. You can get a 2-pack at Target. Great price point. I will link it. All the tools for today will be linked below. Okay, now I'm just going to take a little bit of this loose powder on a fluffy brush and just lightly dust the rest of the face. The big old brush. Just to make sure everything is nice and set. I know we're looking pretty powdery right now. Have no fear. We will bring in that creaminess in a moment with our glow and setting spray. But we do have the glow coming from underneath from the Flawless filter. And as this wears, it will inherently get a little more glowy. As your natural oils break through, it will kind of wear in just a little bit and look more skin-like. Not that you're going to get greasy, but just more natural looking. Now we'll go over to our powder bronzer, and we're just going to pop a little bit of this on over top of where we kind of contoured with the cream contour. We're going to take the powder bronzer and just kind of warm up the skin because we are looking a little ghostly. And I like using a bronzer that has a skin-like finish to it that's not a flat matte like the one in Patrick Ta's palette. Any of them that have that little bit of a skin-like sheen. Charlotte Tilbury's are like that. It just looks pretty. And just, I'm going to pat again using a nice fluffy brush for this part. And I'm just going to pat it in kind of a 3. A little bit down here on the neck. Around the forehead. And just patting, not buffing. I should do a little touch of highlight first. I like to do my highlighter before my blush, ideally, if I remember. Sometimes I forget. I'm just going to take a little bit of a champagne highlight. Just the tiniest amount. Right there. I like to do a little bit on temple. Down the nose. Just nice little soft kiss. Alright, and now we'll do the blush. The powder blush, which will also be from Patrick Ta, and this is the Dewy Know Her. It is a beautiful peachy blush. And here is how everything looks. Now I do a little bit of setting spray, and that will get rid of any powderiness we might have. It'll sort that out, so no worries there. Now, if you find that you don't have enough coverage at this point, this is where a powder foundation can definitely come in handy. You're seeing like, oh, my redness is coming through again. What can I do? Powder foundation. Drugstore has some. My favorite though is the Bare Minerals Bare Pro. This will help even out anything that might be peeping through. They might have, say your coverage got lifted during application. It happens. We all make mistakes. This can kind of help fix things back to the way it was. Like I could take a little bit, come right here. See, I might want some more coverage right in that region. And yeah, it'll just kind of add back anywhere that might have gotten lost. And you can kind of just adjust anywhere that might have lost some coverage. Okay, now setting spray. I'm going to use the All Nighter setting spray from Urban Decay. And we'll let that dry down. And when we come back, we'll have a beautiful skin-like, not powdery, but wonderfully full coverage, perfected finish. Okay, so I'm going to see you in a minute. I'm going to tidy up my eyes, finish up the rest of my makeup, and yeah, see you in a sec. Okay, and now we are done. Here's what it looks like. I did a little bit of setting spray. Go ahead and popped on some lashes, did the lips, and filled in my little couple freckles that are super dark. I guess you can call them beauty marks. I just take my brow pencil and just doop, touch them. So yeah, flawless, full coverage. Doesn't look like my skin is layered in a ton of makeup. It looks still skin-like. It just looks like kind of perfect skin with a little extra perfecting. Like, I think this is like really nice for special occasions and things like that. Do I go through this much trouble in the day-to-day? Not really. I tend to go a little bit lighter with the coverage, but occasionally I do need a little extra. We all do. We all have those days where we need a little extra coverage. So yeah, that's why I wanted to share my tips and tricks for those days, or if you're just somebody who prefers full coverage. Anyway, here's what we're looking like. It's not flat matte. It looks smooth, flawless, poreless, that kind of thing. It's not crunchy, bunchy, or weird. It looks nice. I think it looks pretty. So yeah, let me know your thoughts down below. If you have any tips and tricks to contribute, drop them in the comments. And yeah, I will see you guys in the next one. Stay safe and stay spooky. Bye now.